a big part of my podcast is also looking at the economics of our time, but this is coming from capitalism, which is also an outgrowth of this exact period you're talking about. And in your book, you mentioned that the rationality of this new mode of capitalism, of production, but the way that we're taught to delay gratification, that's how tonality is set up, as you were just explaining. We can move through these key centers, but then we can get that cadence. We're always gratified at the end. And this cadence always arrives, but we delay that gratification. This actually rises up with the idea of capitalism and investing capital and being conservative in a way. And it just completely changes our entire mode of social being. So when I read that, I was like, oh my God, I have never seen that insight before. I'm curious how you came across that insight. And if you just talk about that some more, because it's fascinating.
Yeah, well, I mean, once you decide that you're going to look at tonality as a social construct, and you say, what does this have to offer that the previous compositional strategies did not have?
Mm-hmm.
So transparency, rationality, and this very important new set of social habits, including deferred gratification. Tonality teaches us to do this. We are held on tenterhooks all the way along. The whole surface of a tonal piece is made up of leading tones that want to say, okay, we're about there, we're about there, we're about there. And so then it's the business of the composer to find ways of postponing and postponing and postponing. But we know all the way along exactly what we're desiring and that we will get there. And habits of thought, that is a very important one. And it bridges from all the way through the 18th and 19th centuries. Now, when you get to someone like Gustav Mahler, we have to wait a really long time. And Mahler is no longer sure that the payoff is honest. In fact, Beethoven begins to wonder if this isn't dishonest.
Mm-hmm.
Schubert begins to wonder. So there are musicians all the way along who begin to say, here I am, and I keep giving my listeners the impression that if they work hard, they get pie in the sky.
Right.
But the Industrial Revolution and, the horrors of the early 19th century and industrial capitalism make it very clear that, no, you can work yourself to death in somebody's factory and it's not going to get you anywhere at all. So there is a gap that opens up in the 19th century, in part because of industrial capitalism that called the lie to that narrative that had become so very important to the 18th century. It staggers forward like the undead. People keep wanting to believe in it. Just listen to the Resurrection Symphony of Mahler. I mean, my God, he wants to be able to believe in this.
Yes.
And I mean, it's just in tatters by the time we get there. But it already had been in tatters in Beethoven's Ninth. So there is a real self-consciousness about what is the story that we're teaching people to believe in. And this is where Theodore Adorno, I think, is absolutely right. And it's not coincidental that the musicians he focused on were Beethoven and Mahler. And he's able to say, these guys are aware of what is going on. They are increasingly resistant to going along with that. They try to figure out how to repackage, how to redirect those stories so that they're not just telling lies.
Yeah.
And so one of the really interesting ways of dealing with the 19th century is not by saying, well, it continues to be tonal, which is not really very useful, but just seeing what these culturally and politically aware musicians are doing once they realize that the procedures they've inherited are inherently dishonest. And that's where Adorno, I think, is just our very best critic.